The RCF Track Edition and the Toyota Supra are not the only goodies here at the Detroit Auto Show for JDM fanboys. Oh no, there's something even more unique, and it's standing right here. It's the all-new STI S209. That's right, the S209. Let's take a closer look at this incredible car. The reason I said STI S209 is that even though this is a Subaru WRX as a base car, this is actually sold and marketed as a solely STI branded car. It's pretty interesting, and of course it is basically a WRX STI underneath, but there's so much more that's going on to bump up performance and of course the look of the car. So up front, compared to the standard WRX, the bumper is totally different. It's a lot more aggressive, very functional in terms of aerodynamics as well. Lots of channels on the side and down here near the diffuser to make this car a lot more streamlined. First thing that grabs your attention are these 19-inch gold wheels. Very Subaru, very cool. You can thankfully get this car also in the rally blue color, which I think will complete the look of this car. More aerodynamic channels along the side. A very nice STI S209 badging right there. As we go further down the side, flared wheel arches on the front and the rear, as you can see here, and a lot more aerodynamic channels along the side, and of course a big carbon fiber rear wing. Now we get a better look at that rear wing. Looks really awesome. Of course, adds a lot of much needed downforce for this car. STI S209 badging right there. A rear view camera. A nice red stripe along the bottom of the bumper. Quad tailpipes look really huge. I bet they sound amazing. Can't wait to hear them. And a nice diffuser down here as well, which of course makes this car that much more slippery. Let's take a look under the hood. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on. This is the EJ25. It's a 2.5 liter boxer turbocharged block. Here in the S209, the compressor and the turbine are larger in the turbocharger, and hence it makes roughly 341 horsepower. That's not confirmed, and we don't have any other numbers. But this is an interesting engine, so let's spend a couple minutes just talking about it. First of all, if you don't know what a boxer is, well, it's a very unique configuration of an engine. Flat engines are used by other companies as well, like Porsche for the 911. It's one of their iconic, it gives that iconic characteristic, but same for Subaru as well. Jonas, if you come around here a little bit, let's get a shot of the cylinder banks. You guys can see here, there's one cylinder bank that's running this way and one other cylinder bank running that way. So the cylinder banks are opposing each other and are flat. This means that the heavy engine block can be mounted low down in the engine bay, providing a low center of gravity. So all the ancillary units will be on top. Another interesting feature of this EJ25, especially rather uniquely for the S209, is the turbocharger intercooler, where you can spray water on top of that to give you an extra boost in power by making the air that much more colder and dense. So up here is the large intercooler, as you guys can see. It's very evident. And this is basically in charge of cooling the engine, the air that's going into the intake manifold, and that way it's providing a dense, cold, oxygen-rich air for combustion. To cool the air even further, you can see a couple jets over here on the top, and you'll have a water tank in the back, and there are paddle shifters on the steering wheel, which if you hit them, will spray cold water onto the intercooler, making the air that much more colder, and then hence providing like a punch of extra horsepower. You can see here there's a roof scoop. If I just hold the hood up, you can see that the scoop allows air to come into the engine bay, first of all cooling the jets, and then of course redirecting and ramming the air right on top of the intercooler. So it's all functional. Yeah, there's so much more I can talk about this, but I think we should take a look inside now. The interior of the S209 is also very unique. The doors materials are pretty good, but I think if you're going to buy this car, you would be okay with, just good materials, but you're not going to be too picky about how soft it feels, because that's not the point of this car, not at all. You'll see down here the S209 badging. In fact, in the full series production unit car, even the badging, the stamp for the chassis and body number will say STI rather than Subaru, but not on this show prototype. Another thing you'll notice as I get inside is the steering wheel does not have Subaru, but that's also badged only as an STI. That red color that we saw outside along the bottom of the bumper, that same color is there as a dash through the center of the dashboard. Jonas, hop inside, let's take a closer look. Again, like I was talking about the steering wheel, it's really, really sporty, has a flat bottom, and even though this car only comes with a 6-speed short-throw manual transmission, which I'll talk about in a minute, there are paddle shifters, and that's for the intercooler spray. You can see that it says IC spray, so it's a really fun way to, give you a little bit more control of the car. And this is the point of the STI, the S209. It's not a car that's trying to be smarter than you, trying to be a better driver than you. It's a great tool. It's a great track weapon, and it gives you a lot of things in your control. So things like the gearbox. It's a short throw, close ratio, 6-speed manual, and that's the only way you get it. The pedals are also aluminum drilled. Gives really good feedback. Has really good weight, as far as I can tell sitting here. Short throw. Of course, I can't really feel that too much when it's at standstill. Infotainment system, yeah, I'm sure it's pretty decent. I cannot test that right now. Unfortunately, it's not on. Dual zone climate control, that's good. A fairly decent glove box, which is actually damped, so a little bit of premiumness there. Although the plastics are a bit hard, the top of the dashboard is fairly soft. To be honest, I think the design of the dashboard is quite plain. The color is very old-fashioned. I mean, it's just a regular textured black. There's nothing that's beautiful about it or elegant about it. I think it's just very functional. But again, this car is about the drive, not really about all of that, or at least not as much. So anyway, let's talk about the drive then. Let's talk about the stuff that it has to make it drive better. Short throw gearbox. Here you can see the drive mode selector, the SI drive. There's the intelligent mode if you just press this, and here it's kind of like a daily driving mode, which gives you better fuel economy. Then you have sport and sport sharp. Of course, makes the car a lot more tighter if you have it in sport sharp. Crisp throttle response, heavier steering, so on and so forth. This car also has upgraded brakes. It has 6-piston Brembo brakes at the front, dual pistons in the rear. The 6-speed transmission feeds a symmetrical all-wheel drive system, as with all Subarus, with torque vectoring and limited slip differentials in both front and rear axle. There's also a central differential, and it's a driver-controlled central differential, and you can see here there's a little toggle switch where you can increase and decrease the amount of lock in the clutch pack for the central differential. Of course, I can't really explain or test how all this works. Hopefully, if I get to drive this car, I will definitely look into all of these things. They only plan to produce 200 of them, so I'm guessing over here you can see a stamp with how many, the serial number of the car out of the total that were manufactured. This being a show car, it's all zeros. Let's take a look in the back seat. Although I hope I never have to sit in this seat in this car. I would want to sit in this seat instead. But this is a 4-door, 4-seater sedan. So that means you can use this as a daily driver. You can have it to drive your kids to school. You can go do your grocery shopping in this car as well. There's about enough legroom for me, at least. Just about enough headroom as well. I'm 5'8" or 1.7 meters. The seat is actually fairly comfortable. You have this Alcantara material and synthetic leather, so that's always a great combination. There are no air conditioning vents in the rear, at least on this car, and I doubt the Any of the S209s would have that, but at least there are cup holders. Also, I don't see any charging ports. That's perhaps a bit of an omission that I would at least expect in a car that's in 2019. But apart from that, the center seat, let's take a look. It is a bit firm, and it's not that bad in terms of the base. The backrest is a bit firm, but I don't really have any other place to keep my feet apart from the footwells on either side. So if you want to have 3 passengers sitting back here, it's going to be fairly tight. But still, I mean, for 4 passengers, it is fairly practical. Let's take a look in the trunk. It's fairly simple. I think it's a pretty decent shape. There are quite a lot of contours from the wheel arches and the mechanism for the hinge of the trunk lid. So that does eat up quite a lot of space here, to be honest. But still, it is fairly practical. Some more space down here for your emergency kit. But yeah, I mean, if you're taking this car on a track, you wouldn't want a spare tire anyway. I don't see you can flip the seats down, and besides, you have the bar, the rigidity bar across the back. I mean, this is again kind of showing you what this car really cares about. This bar provides extra rigidity to the chassis, the same as the tower bar on the struts in the front. So they do impede a little bit of space in the trunk. But overall, I mean, it's not that bad at all. I'm here with Charles. He is a PR representative of Subaru, and he's going to talk to us about this fantastic unicorn of a car here, the S209.
Hi, so we're debuting the S209 here. It's built specifically for the U.S. This is the first ever S-Series in the U.S., and we have the white with gold wheels. It comes in 2 colors. It comes with in World Rally Blue with gray wheels. So this is the most powerful STI that we've ever built, and it comes on BBS wheels with bespoke Dunlop tires made specifically for the car. It has a beefier suspension, beefier brakes, all tuned by STI. This is one of the first vehicles you say is actually made by STI for the U.S. market. And we do a quick walk around. We have a little wider flares. We got the carbon fiber wing, carbon fiber roof. And inside we have specific for the S-Series, we have red trim throughout. We have Recaro seats.
And I believe that you're going to be doing only a limited production run of about 200 units. Is that correct?
Correct. So we don't have the final numbers in yet, but it's going to be around 200.
And only for the U.S. market?
Correct.
Is there a strategic reasoning for that, that you're not selling this in other markets? I do know that the U.S. is a major market for Subaru, but I mean, a car like this perhaps has a market elsewhere. Is there a particular reason why?
Well, it's part of the strategy because we rely a lot on customer feedback. So you'll see a lot of the changes from our car based on customer feedback. So for years, people have talked about they wanted the S-Series. So we're finally at we had a chance where we can actually make this reality for the U.S. market. So we had the U.S. market specifically in mind whenever we built this car.
So, I mean, right behind us, we see the standard WRX STI. So, of course, this car makes a little bit more power. It has better suspension and brakes. But what are the other, characteristic things that we don't see on the outside? Forget the carbon fiber wing and stuff. That's the technology and the hardware that's going on underneath that makes the S209 that much better than the standard STI.
Well, the engines are hand-built by STI, so they use forged steel pistons. We have the water spray for the injectors.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So we haven't had that since '04, and it's manual controlled. So what you could give it a little blast to it, and it'll increase the horsepower, give it like a little bit of bump and power whenever you need it. And as far as it's got a close gear ratio, transmission, short shifter. So that's all standard on the car.
So only manual, right? 6-speed manual?
Yep, just manual transmission.
That's the way God intended this car to be, absolutely. I mean, it still has 4 doors, easily seats 4 passengers, has a decent-sized trunk. So, I mean, what would be your demographic? Are you looking at somebody who already owns a WRX STI and wants to upgrade from that to this? Or is it for somebody who's would jump into Subaru as a brand with this car, who are you targeting with the S209?
Well, it is built with the track in mind, so we're aiming at an established track drivers. You know, they've had STIs in the past, but they just want to step up their game a little bit. So that's why we have the bespoke tires, and it was designed especially for track, like just for the weekends, but still has the same comfort of ride doing it as a daily driver.
Mm-hmm. So with the bigger turbo, this car makes roughly 341 horsepower. You don't have official figures yet,
right,
but can you tell me some other numbers that, at least ballpark figures in terms of torque, 0 to 60?
We still don't have the final numbers on theirs yet, so that's going to be coming in the spring.
Right. So when does this car officially go on sale? When can people go and buy this?
Don't have the exact date yet, but it's going to be later this year, toward the end of the year.
Okay, well, fantastic. Well, looks really great. Hopefully you guys have a PR event where you can invite me to let me come and drive this car on track. I would be thrilled to do that. And
great. It's going to be a great opportunity for us journalists to come out there and drive it. We're thinking about having a track day where you could really experience this car, like where it's meant to be driven.
Right. Well, I'm going to give you my card. You got to give me a call.
Definitely.
Charles, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
The STI S209 is a special car for the keen driver. I mean, it's not going to appeal to a lot of people. Because let's be honest, the standard WRX STI has a lot of the capabilities that this car already has. It already has about 310 horsepower from the same 2.5 Boxer unit. It also has symmetrical all-wheel drive, locking differentials, and yeah, it's not that different. And it's already about 40 grand for that car. And I know that this is easily going to be at least 60 grand. And does it really, is it really worth that extra money? To most people, probably not, but that's why it's a limited edition car. People who know what this is about, people who don't really mind spending the extra money would be really happy for it, I'm sure. It's just about the small details. It's all about that extra last 3%, which makes all the difference, which also costs a lot of money. But in the end, I can only judge this after I've driven it. So fingers crossed that one day we'll have an Autogefühl review of the S209.